In today's video, we're going to talk about the top 10 things you can do to help students with autism today. So, tip number one, you need to engage their interests. Children with autism, they have a selected range of interests, and you need to understand what they like so that you can incorporate it into your lesson. How you know what they like is simple. Look at what they are playing, or if even better, you play with them. And if you are able to play with them, and if you're able to engage them, understand what they like. Notice what they reach out for, notice what they are saying, notice their behavior, what are they trying to tell you. So you need to use all of this information and incorporate it into your lesson. For example, if a child with autism is interested in trains, you can use that information and put it into your lessons. So for example, maths, instead of just using 1 plus 1 or any other materials, you can use train sets to use into your lessons. So you can use one train plus another train equals 2 trains, and so forth and so forth. Then you can build up the interest into other areas such as reading, speaking, role play. You can engage him, because once you are able to use that interest with your lesson plans, you will be more successful, I can guarantee it. Tip number two, once you've already established what their interest is, next you need to be fun and engaging to them. So whatever your lesson plan is, whatever that you're trying to do with them, all the activities, you need to try to have fun with them. So not everything has to be super serious. So you need to try to frame your lesson plans around some activities that interests them, and then also follows the objective of the lesson plan. Make the lesson plan and activity a very fun and positive experience for them. They will eventually learn and associate those feelings with the learning. So as I said, learning is a long-term process, and all these small incremental little things will add up eventually in the future. So you're just doing all those little things right now so that it can have a massive positive impact for them in the future. So one thing I want to say is that try not to use reinforcement or any rewards to associate the learning with the child, because if you keep using these reinforcement and rewards with the child, eventually they will just depend on the reward or the reinforcement just to learn. They lose their motivation. So you need to try to frame it early on that learning doesn't equals to getting an external reward, but by creating positive experiences and having fun, that is the motivation they need. Tip number three, keep your instructions short and concise, especially when it comes to younger children with autism. If you use long words and long sentences, they might lose what you're trying to say, and then they will not understand what you're trying to say, and then it just spirals down from there. I see too often that teachers or even parents, they are trying to communicate something to the children, but they just use a very long sentence with multiple instructions included into the sentence, so the child gets so confused they don't know what to do. So that's tip number three, keep your instructions short and concise. So an example of this is, let's say the instruction is, come, let's go and get your bag, then wash your hands. You see how long that sentence is? So what we want to do is try to either break down the instruction into smaller chunks, or just use shorter sentences. So instead of saying all those words, I can say, come, let's go, and then wait, and then say, let's wash our hands, wait, and then whatever instructions you have afterwards. So by putting a long sentence into a shorter one, children with autism are more understanding of what you're trying to say, and you have less headache. Now, a word of caution. I want to give you the warning. I want to give you a warning to say that don't try to concise the whole sentence into 1 or 2 words, unless the child with autism is that level of speech. What I see often is the communication between the adult and the child gets too short, to the point where the child just learns to speak in 1 to 2 words, when the child is able to actually speak 3 to 4, even the whole sentence. So because the child is so used to speaking how the adults are speaking to him or her, the child adapted to the adult and the child spoke in 1 to 2 words instead of the whole sentence. So what we want to do is try to avoid limiting our conversation, our communication with the child to the point where they just limit themselves to a 1 to 2 words. So like I said, unless it depends on the child's capability. So gauge the ability of the child to communicate with you and consult your speech and language therapist about this so that you do it the right way. Hey, thanks for making it this far to the video. Now, if you really like what I've been saying, now is a very good time to press the subscribe button and also the like button so that YouTube knows that my videos are helping you. Watch till the end where I review my top strategy to help children with autism. Now, for tip number 4 is to use visual support. Now, if you're anybody who is dealing with children with autism or any children with special needs, I don't care what you say. I know that you need to use visual support or visual aid when it comes to teaching special needs, especially children with autism. Why? Because when we speak, they don't really understand what we're trying to say that easily as compared to using visual. So using visual will tremendously help you in teaching and communicating and handling children with autism. And that also brings me to tip number 5. Use a routine, especially a visual routine, or what I like to use is called a visual schedule. Why I always like to use this is because it sets up the expectation for the children with autism to know what's next and what to expect. If you do not do this from experience, I can tell you most children with autism, they will get emotional, they will get anxious, they will get nervous because they don't know what's next and they don't know what to expect. So by giving them a visual schedule and visual routine, they will be understanding of what will come next and they will be able to better prepare themselves for the next activity. So I think that it's more fair for you and for the children with autism to have a visual schedule. An example I like to use is how would you feel if someone sat you down and do an activity that you have mild interest in but you do not know how long it's going to be or what the next activity is going to be or when it's going to be the next break or all these kind of things, they all come together. So if you are already feeling the nervousness, the anxiousness from hearing just what I said, imagine what the children with autism feel. They will feel 10 times worse than what you are feeling now. So if I give you a schedule, a timetable saying that, okay, from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. we're going to do, let's say, swimming. After 2 p.m. to 2:15 we're going to just have a break, have just a cup of tea, and then after that 2:30 to 3 o'clock we're gonna go to the classroom, we're gonna study phonics, and maybe 3 to 3:30 we're gonna have a little bit of break. You see, by having sequence and by having a routine, the children will be able to understand what to expect. And especially, like I said in the previous tip, if you didn't skip it, use visual aid. Like I said, use a visual schedule with them so that they can understand better with the visual cues. So now we're on to tip number 6. As I mentioned previously, just when you are using instructions, you need to be short. So now I want to tell you that if you are giving instructions, you need to be specific. So what I mean by specific, let's think about a way to give expectation to the children with autism. How we do that is the easiest way and the most effective way I found is to use time. So for example, instead of saying, come, let's go out and play after this, we can say, in 5 minutes, we are going out to play. Something like that. So the whole purpose of this is to create expectation that is specific for them so that they can rely on instead of having to rely on the word this. What is this? After this? Who knows what time? how long? Who knows? So by giving them something specific that is non-abstract, they are able to have that expectation, and it's going to be easier for you when you're giving your instructions or when you're communicating with children with autism. And tip number 7 is to give them time. Oftentimes, the word associated when it comes to teaching children with autism is to be patient. So giving them time to understand, giving them time to pick up whatever you're trying to teach will be very beneficial for them, because like I always say, the short and small wins will lead up to the large wins. So don't worry now they don't get it. You trust that they will get it in the long run. So combining everything together, creating a positive and fun learning environment for them, and also giving them some time, you are creating a safe and positive learning environment for them. So when you have that for them, they will be more likely to learn from you, they will be more likely to listen to you, and you will have less struggle when it comes to teaching children with autism. So I learned this powerful tip from a speech and language practitioner from Australia. She taught me to wait. Yeah, just wait. Whenever you're giving instructions, allow some time for the child to absorb whatever you're saying. So for example, in 3 minutes, we are going out. And then you respond according to the situation. But by doing this, it's simple now, but when you're teaching children with autism, this 5 seconds will seem like a long time. But by having your hand up and counting by yourself, you'll be able to objectively count the time and know how to respond and how long to wait until you respond to them. Hey, thanks for watching until this part of the video. Wait, before you touch anything else, click the subscribe button. It only takes 0.1 second of your life. Okay, remember to watch till the end of the video. Okay, onto the video. I forgot to record tip number 8. Tip number 8, create opportunities wherever you can. So, any moment can be a moment of learning. So, for example, during lunchtime, you can practice speech with the child by having food in front of the child, and then knowing the intention the child wants more food, you can practice the word more with the child, so that instead of just learning whatever he or she should be learning in the classroom or therapy sessions, the child will be learning outside of those environments, and in that way, skills learned throughout the school, skills learned during therapy, skills learned during sessions will be translated into a generalized environment, which will generalize the skills. So that's why I always say it's very important for parents to incorporate some of the techniques, some of the methods the therapists and teachers are using in the learning environment and apply it at home, is to generalize the learning. So that is it for tip number 8. On to tip number 9. And we're on to tip number 9. Tip number 9 is a simple one. Just celebrate their small little wins. If you celebrate their wins, you're building, number 1, confidence in them, and number 2, a positive learning environment. So you are creating, again, like I said previously, a safe and positive learning environment for children with autism. So that will make your lesson plans and your activities in the future more productive and less hassle for you. And number 10. Alright, before I say it, I want you guys to think about it. What could be the top 10 tip? And if you can leave a comment down below so that I will see it and I will like it and I will respond to it. Okay, are you ready? So the tip number 10 that I always tell all the parents and all the teachers that they need to do this. Now we focus back on the adults. Tip number 10 is to be ready to change your plans. Oftentimes we always have this perfect lesson plan where we plan to do this and that, and at this time and at that time. We always plan it really well, but we all know plan don't always go according to plan. So when you're teaching children with autism, you need to be flexible with your lesson plan, and you gotta be okay with having your lesson plan changed. So now it comes back to you, the adult, to have the understanding that although we want the child with autism to learn a specific learning objective for the lesson, it is okay if the lesson plan changes. Of course, you're trying to shape and teach the child towards your lesson objective, but at the end of the day, we are thinking in terms of long term. If they don't get it today, they will get it tomorrow or the next day. It's a learning process for them, and it's also a learning process for you. Just be patient and they will get it one day. And another thing is, if your lesson plan changes, you need to be okay with that. Once you accepted that, you also need to accept the fact that one way doesn't work with all children with autism. So you need to find out a way or 2 ways or even 3 ways to teach a child or a student with autism a specific concept or a specific subject. So for example, maths. We all know maths, plus, minus, all those things. So for example, plus. When we are teaching plus, normally in school, for normal children, we just teach them using the workbook, teach them using some materials. But for children with autism, you need to prepare, just in case, some materials, some objects, a different way of teaching the one concept, so that if they don't get the one concept through the one method, you can always come back to the second method or the third method. That is my 10 tip. And that wraps up today's video. So in summary, we learned about using their interest to teach them, having fun and play with them, keeping any instructions short, use visual support, use routine, try to avoid long communication and sentences, and use specific sentences, specific instructions. Try to celebrate their small steps, give them time, and also be prepared to change your lessons. So that wraps up today's video, and I hope you enjoy it. So thanks for watching to the end. You know what to do. Subscribe, like, comment. See you in the next video.